Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show. Good morning, everyone. The saying, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere, speaks to the city's relentless energy, fierce competition, and high standards. New York City is a place where ambition meets adversity, where talent alone isn't enough. Grit, resilience, and adaptability are essential. The fast-paced environment, high cost of living, and vast pool of equally determined individuals create an atmosphere that pushes people to their limits. But for those who succeed, the experience sharpens their skills and their instincts and builds an unshakable confidence that can be carried anywhere in the world. Making it in New York City isn't just about achieving success, it is about proving you can thrive under the toughest conditions. And in New York City real estate, if you can close deals, build relationships, and succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate, you have also proven you can handle real estate anywhere. And at the table with me today are Daniel Blattman from Compass, Lisa Lippman from Brown Harris Stevens, and Ryan Kaplan from Corcoran. And they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. I am Vince Rocco, and this is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside real estate, the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. So we are talking about if you could make it in New York City, you could literally make it everywhere. Look, that is an expression or saying that I've heard literally all of my life. However, it is very competitive here. It is very big here. It is very noisy here. It is everything you've ever heard of. But it is, and I maintain this and always do, the greatest place on earth. If you can live here and if you can survive, literally you can survive. And not only professionally, but just in life. It's a great place to be. And if you haven't been here, come and visit. So I'm talking to three stars here, okay, in the real estate, New York City real estate industry. And they're here for a reason because they are stars. They are very successful. And they have made it here in New York City in an industry, which we'll get to in a little bit, that is highly competitive, that there are way too many of us. And half the time I think, why so many of us? But, it's that old 80-20 rule. If you want to really look at it that way, 80% of people aren't doing anything and 20% are doing everything else. Just like Hollywood, right? Just like the stars in Hollywood. So I want to ask a couple of questions, first and foremost, just about success in general, about people in general. So Daniel, let me start with you. What specific qualities or skills does New York City demand on individuals to become successful, where we can take that success, if we need to, anywhere else, whether permanently somewhere else or just temporarily as we travel around the world? What are the qualities that I think New York City demands in us to find that inner something to be successful?
I think New York City draws a very specific type of human. And this is why people are all back in New York City now, 4.5, 5 years after COVID, because we can't live anywhere else. And it's the hustle bustle, it's the immediacy of having anything we want at any time. So with that also becomes a lot of risk and reward in that you have to have self-discipline. You have to have determination, because it's just kind of like college. As an adult, and you see this with 60-year-old bankers who are still hanging out at restaurant bars, doing the same thing that they've done for 30 years. You can do that every single day of your life, and that would be awesome. It's so much fun, but you have to decide that you actually want something different. So it takes adaptability, determination, and hustle, because in all of our business, Lisa is a legend in the business, but there's everybody chewing at her ankles every single day. So you can't really let up in everything. So it keeps it really is a marathon, and you have to keep that energy and you have to keep that life going for your entire existence in New York, which not everybody can do.
Lisa, for you, legend, and I second that. You work in my company, but I've known you for 100 years. You are very successful. It is a hustle. There's a beat to this town that's beyond anywhere else. So in the hustle and bustle, and you are married, you have kids, how do you do it? I mean, how do you keep for yourself that success going and going in the right direction when sometimes adversity is like right here? And Daniel mentioned COVID before. I mean, COVID stopped all of us in our tracks, correct? So in order to get back to that, we had to have something within us, that fighter in us, to enable us to do that. How do you do this?
So, you mentioned we've known each other for 100 years, which, it's not quite, but maybe it's close. So I turned 60 this past year, and I think one of the good things about getting old is that you have more confidence. And I've always been somebody who self-reflects a lot since I was a little kid. But I think I've done even more self-reflection. So what I would say has kept me going and has made me successful for for 27 years is a combination. First of all, I love what I do. In general, I love what I do. Do we love every single minute of the day? No, of course not. But in general, I love what I do. I grew up in a house where there had been adversity. My parents both fled Nazi Europe. They lost a lot of family, but they were always positive. They always had hope for the future. They always said, you do the right thing, you hold your head up high, you're honest, you work hard. I saw my father was a super hard worker. My mom was a very positive person. And I think that what it takes to be successful in this city and happy in this city is having a combination of confidence and humility. And I think that the people who don't do well here are underconfident and not humble.
True.
Because you have to realize that you can do it. You have to have confidence in yourself, but you also have to realize that there are other people who are going to be good at what you do also. And there's always going to be people who have more than you. And you really have to be able to look around and see all the people who are less fortunate and be able to help them and feel good about what you do every day. And I think that those are all the things that get me through the tough times. Like if I think about COVID, I remember, none of us knew what was going to happen, right? First, we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, then a month, then 2 months. And then slowly, it unfolded. And all the naysayers about New York, one thing I always felt really, truly in my heart was that New York was going to come back. And I do think you have to have that feeling about this city to be successful here. You have to love this city. And I love this city. I love this city with its dirt, its grit, its cracks, all of it. I love it all. And I always want to try to make it a better place because I love it so much.
Yeah, when I agree with you on that one. When I walk around, I don't necessarily even see all that stuff, the dirt, the grit, the whatever. It's just, you kind of look beyond that. You look past that. You just do your thing. Ryan, so humble, confident, successful, which you are. How do you wrap all that into who you are as a successful person and a successful agent in this town?
How do you wrap it together? I mean, I love what you said about humility. I actually wasn't even expecting that word to come up because when you think about making it in New York, you think of the Sinatra song and the pride and the ego. But that's such an interesting point, and I think there's not enough of it, at least in our industry.
No.
Maybe the city at all. But I not to piggyback off Lisa's answer, but I think that humility and humor have been some of the best ways I've kind of bundled all the other crucial points together and been sort of the foundation of my success, as well as competence, which I think is interesting because I tend to find when I'm dealing with others in the city, others in our industry, the less competent they may be, the more cocky or the more loud they get. So if they make enough noise, you won't realize that it's not matched with wisdom. So I think that's another key component.
There's a famous expression that says, and Lisa touched on this, if you focus on what you don't have, you'll feel like you just never have enough. But if you focus on what you do have and cherish it and understand it and push forward, then you will have a lifetime, I believe, of fulfillment, knowing that you will get more if you just stay focused and do the right thing. Are there other cities, Daniel, where the success might be even more challenging than New York City? I mean, again, here we are, New Yorkers. Here we are, a New York-based show, talking about if you can make it here in New York, you can make it anywhere. But are there other places in this world, not necessarily even in this country, that can rival what we have here in New York?
No. And that's for a variety of reasons. When people are going to move to the city, I always give them advice that keep learning and keep figuring things out. The moment that you become too arrogant and too cocky and say that you've got it and you have everything covered, the city will beat you. And then,
And
we
it
all have
certainly does do
Stockholm
that.
syndrome just for living here. And I describe New York as the best abusive relationship we can't quit. Because there's always us hanging out, and then there's the other character of New York City that is playing on you at all times. It's like David Lynch film TV show Twin Peaks. It is a character in your life, and it will reward you when you're humble, and it will rip you down when you're arrogant. The reason that it can't be replicated is because everybody talks about how it's so easy to live anywhere else. And I think ultimately I could grow a bigger business outside of New York. And I think about it regularly. I've been in real estate for 12 years. I got into real estate. I had $1,000 to my name. Rent was $800, and the option of going and sleeping on my parents' couch in Ohio was non-existent. So you really had to grind and figure it out. So looking back on life, I try and think, if I could change what I do and would I start real estate in another city? Would I do something in another city and revert and get rid of what built me to become who I am? And I can't. I've thought about moving to other cities. I've tried to figure out where else could I go. And there's other businesses to start, there's everything. But ultimately, the life experience that I've gathered in 12 years, the amount of times that I've lost money, I could pay for Harvard 3 times. And it's incredibly expensive. But the life application that you learn in New York City, the trial and error, the amount of testing that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. There is nothing that's easy, but when you do accomplish something, it's incredibly rewarding. And you listen to anybody else in the world pitch their city, London, Dubai, LA. The fact that we have complete freedom to do anything and everything here. You want to meet a billionaire? Just think about it. You actually can manifest meeting a billionaire standing in Starbucks. Everything is right there. It is possible. It is up to you to be humble enough and good enough in order to actually achieve it. And I don't think that the immediacy and the access that we have here can be replicated. And I really believe that New York City is the true American dream that has existed, that has made everybody from around the world want to move to America, is completely alive and well on this island.
I completely agree with you. And I think that, I always say here in New York, we have the world at our fingertips. Because if you want something to happen, it can happen. Ryan, so you live here in New York City too, but does living here and finding that success that we want or that we feel like we have to have, does that prepare you to live elsewhere, even though you don't plan to live elsewhere? I mean, we can sell in Westchester, we can sell in the Hamptons, which a lot of us do, but that doesn't mean we need to transfer and live in these places. Do you think someday that you want to live somewhere else?
No, my roots are so deep in New York. I was born in New York. I have a very big family. We're very close, and they are all in New York.
Same here.
My business is here. I was talking with one of my clients who, as their business keeps growing, they have to keep traveling. And I said, it's very opposite from what I do, because as my business keeps growing in New York, that means I have to stay here even more. So it's kind of different. But no, I'm not going anywhere. Do I think it prepares you for other places? Look, I think different cities call upon different traits as different industries do. Certain businesses require you to be more social. Certain businesses require you to be more technical. Same thing with cities. They can exercise different disciplines. What I do think, if you can do here, you can do anywhere, is the work ethic and the drive. I had a business partner when I first started brokering who moved to LA. And he didn't know the market. He had no network there. And he said, but I know I'm just going to work harder than anyone else there. And I'm like, oh, that seems like kind of a generalization on an entire city, which to an extent it is. But he got there and he was the first one in the office. He was the last one to go. And he built an incredible brokerage business there very quickly. So there must be some truth to it.
Yeah. Now, I had the same experience with my former partner, went out to LA, where he's originally from.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, come on now, really? After 10 years in New York, what are you going to do? Well, you focus, you work hard,
Right.
you get it done. Lisa, talking about real estate now, so how does the real estate market compare to other major cities, from a difficult perspective, opportunity perspective? Is it easier here? Is it not? See, the way I look at like doing this anywhere else, it's a hardship. You got to get in your car. You have to drive all over the place, especially if it's someplace new. You don't know where you're going. Here in New York City, we're foot soldiers. You get on the train, you get in a taxi, you get in a black car service, whatever it is, and you go. You just do. I find just the thought of being anywhere else to do this would be like so complicated. Where are the opportunities potentially anywhere else, or is it just really kind of best here?
I've never really thought about doing this anyplace else because I don't see myself living anyplace else. Eventually, I see maybe living part-time in a place like Tel Aviv, maybe 2 months a year or something, but I don't think that I would work there, so I haven't thought about it. But I do think that if you can make it here, you should be able to make it anyplace else, only because I know that we work harder here than in other cities in the world, certainly in Europe where there's a lot more downtime. And I think, to me, LA seems kind of complicated because it's so spread out. Mm-hmm. But I actually think that our market's probably harder because, if you're an old timer like me, I still sell probably 50% of what I sell are co-ops. So I'm still dealing with that process. And I think that if you can meander the co-op process and understand all the different kinds of real estate we have mm-hmm. here. And, I'm a lawyer as well. So I really do understand sort of the difference between co-op, condo, townhouse, and all the different sort of, the condo is sort of a hybrid between really buying a house and a co-op. It's not exactly like buying a house, which some people don't realize.
It's fee simple ownership, but you get a title. But
and there's a board, and there's everything else, right? So I think that I would be able to do it any place else. And I will tell you that, again, my family, my father fled Belgium, my mother fled France. So I think maybe as a Jewish person, especially in these times, I always think to myself that you do have to be malleable. You do have to be ready to go someplace else if you have to. And I always say to myself, as long as the people I love are with me, I can live any place. It doesn't – I love this city and mm-hmm. I want to live here. But, if something happened and I had to go someplace else, as long as the people I love are with me – I'd make it someplace else, and I think, we'd figure it out.
I totally agree. All right, we've got to take a break. We're coming right back after this. We're going to talk about some of the demanding aspects of living here and how it relates to our business right after these messages. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com. or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back with Ryan, Daniel, and Lisa. So, Lisa, I wanted to ask you, does New York City's reputation for being tough and demanding hold true across all industries here, or is it just really real estate? I mean, we talked about the qualities I think we need to have to become successful people and to thrive and to love what we do or how we live here. But is it across all industries here? I mean, are people in the banking industry or the insurance industry, for example, just as competitive and rough and tumble as a lot of other than New Yorkers call us sometimes rough and tumble? Or is it just really real estate guys and gals?
I actually think that all industries are tough. I think you have to work really hard and really smart in New York to survive. Even, as a waiter, we were talking during the break about waiting tables, which I never did in Manhattan, but I did in Connecticut where I grew up. the waiters in this city are better than they are anyplace else in the world. They give better service, and you have to. Otherwise, you don't survive here. The bankers work longer hours. The lawyers work longer hours. Doctors work really hard. You have to work really hard to live in this city. But one thing I just want to say is that I don't think working hard is a bad thing. I think that, there's this fallacy that having more leisure time is better for humans. And I'm not sure that that's true. I think it may be true for certain people, but not everybody thrives on having more leisure time. I'm the kind of
deal with
person.
leisure time.
Me too. I'm the kind of person, I'm a worrier. If I have more leisure time, I worry more. One of the ways I manage my worrying is by working more. And I know that about myself. I think to survive in the city, you have to work hard and be tough. Having said that, though, I don't like the word tough. And the reason why I don't like the word tough is that this is a nice city. Like, people in this city are nice. In general, people are nice. And I think people are nicer here than they are in a lot of other places. I mean, we're a very accepting city. When everybody talks about all the crazy politics and all this stuff that goes on in the world, we hear about it now more than ever. I feel like our nice New York City is a bubble of humanity in many ways. And I just want to make sure that that's out there, because I do think that the reason why we all love living in New York, one of the things we haven't mentioned, is that we are a bubble of humanity. And that we're a kind and in many ways gentle city. And that's something that, I just never want to give up.
Yep.
That is so well said, because I 1,000% agree with that. We are kind and we are gentle and we are humble for the most part. And I think that we sometimes out there in the world, not just in the country, get a bad reputation. I mean, when I was in corporate America, I used to travel all over the place, Europe included, in a sales position. And people would always say, "Oh, you're from New York." It's like, "Oh, okay, I get that." And I'm like, "No, you don't. You really don't. Look at me. I'm not like that." We're all the same. We're kind of nice and humble. Ryan, though, let me ask you, though, how much of New York City's success is about talent and hard work versus luck or timing or, just placement or connections?
Well, I think placement, connections, and luck play a role in any profession, any industry. That's also, we were talking a little bit before, again, about humility and conversely arrogance. I never understood why people could get so arrogant from success when there is always a degree of luck. Because there's always something that happened in your favor. If you get to that point, that was out of your control. So you can't take too much credit for it. Unfortunately, I think in particular, our profession is more heavily reliant on connections than it is on competence. And I think that's a strange thing, because for most people, buying a home is the most significant financial purchase decision they'll make in their life. So that's pretty important. After health, maybe one of their next most important things. And I think about doctors. Would you rather, if you had to have a procedure done, would you rather go to the doctor who has the biggest network, or would you rather go to the doctor who's done the procedure the most amount of times?
Amen.
Clearly the latter. And yet, in our profession, some of the people that we co-broke with who are from very fortunate backgrounds or for whatever reason have a tremendous network are at the top for no other reason besides that. So I do think in our role, in our industry, it does play a significant piece. That doesn't mean you can't get there without just being hardworking and just being smart. If you do get there for those reasons, you'll be even better. But yeah, I think that is.
I just want to make a comment about that. One of the kind of interesting things about doing this for as long as I've been doing it is when I first started in the business, we hardly used email, and almost no one had a cell phone. In fact, in 2000 or 99, I was the first person at Corcoran, there were 300 brokers there, to have a BlackBerry. Nice. My ex-husband got me a BlackBerry thinking I'd work less because it would make me more efficient. Of course, that was the kiss of death.
Yeah, exactly.
But back then, coming from the right background and being socially connected was more important than it is now. And what's really great about social media and technology, because there's definitely some things that are not great, is the fact that you can make yourself who you want to be more easily, right? So used to be that I used to get referrals because somebody would tell somebody to call me or whatever. It was always word of mouth. I mean, I'm sure you guys get this too. I get people contacting me now. I found you on the web.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day I pitched a listing and the person actually, I said to them, like I'd never heard of them. I'd never sold anything in the building. I said, how did you find me? They said, we did an AI search and we Googled who's the best person to sell a co-op on the Upper West Side. And every time they did it, my name came up.
Very cool.
I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
What did I say to you in an email the other day? You are New York City real estate, so that's not surprising
no, but like
to me.
my point is that, you know, you can make yourself who you want to be more now than it used to be, right? It used to be that if you came from a fancy family and you had a book of business and you knew the right people, even if you were a moron, you could sell real estate.
Yeah.
Now, I think that the way the world works is it's a little bit of an equalizer.
Yeah. So I think tech has democratized entry into the business, certainly in more
Absolutely.
ways. But I mean, last time I was here, we talked about the Hollywood Reporter Power Broker Awards, which I was at. And what was interesting, now that you're saying it, was some of the more legacy brokers, you know, call it 50 and up, were generally speaking, I am the son of, I'm the goddaughter of, insert here.
Correct.
All the younger folk, and I was nominated in the Rising Star category, so it was all the... None of us were from that.
Yeah.
It was all we pushed our own way in through grit, through intelligence, through whatever. But there was a very clear line in the sand between how some of the older folk in the room had gotten there. And so I guess that speaks to
And I think I can see from both perspectives.
Yeah.
So, you know, I grew up in New Haven. My father was a primary care physician. He came from Queens, I mean, after Europe. My mother was from White Plains after Europe. So I didn't have any of that, like, New York City legacy. However, I was a lawyer, and I had gone to Penn.
Right.
So that got me sort of my foot in the door maybe before somebody else who didn't have that. So I'm kind of somewhat in between. And now I've seen how the world has really changed a lot. And you see a lot of these sort of legacy people going into the business thinking that's going to be everything. And the truth is, people are smart. They're not giving their listing to the son of somebody important or daughter if they haven't done anything. They'd rather go with someone like you who may not be the son of anybody they've heard of, but knows what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Again, so well said. And it you know, look, we're always going to have banana heads in this industry, no matter where they come from, rich families or whatever. But, excuse me, as I was going to say, what you're really talking about, Lisa, is branding. And because of technology and because of social media, in the last 15 years probably, where it's become really important, this is how people find us today. And I say all the time when I'm teaching social media, you need to have a brand. People need to know who you are, what you do, and where you do it. Yeah. And if you don't know, it starts with trying to understand who you are. And I tell people all the time, the exercise is, the homework, the takeaway is, look in the mirror every morning, every night when you're getting ready in the morning and getting ready to go to bed at night, and ask yourself, who am I? What is my why? Who am I? Because until you can decide that, you can't present yourself to the outside world effectively. Like you said, people search, you know, all the time. It's not just only a matter of, you know, word of mouth or referral, which we bank on and we love, but people have other means to find us, especially the younger generation today. Not a bad thing. Daniel, I mentioned before, you know, there are going to be some banana heads out there, regardless of the intelligence here and the success here and whatever else. We do bump into banana heads, and I say that nicely. What do you do with that? Or why is that? When you have the opportunity to find that success like everybody else does, and even some of them do find success, and they're still banana heads.
The most challenging thing is a banana head that has an ego.
Correct.
Because there are so many of them.
That's what I was saying
And
before.
it's an unwarranted ego. I don't know why they have such a chip on their shoulder a lot of the time if you don't have experience and you don't know. And people come into this business thinking, I'm going to make New York my bitch. I'm going to crush New York City real estate. I'm going to be the #1 broker. It's like, do you have any idea how much effort it takes to become the #1 broker? I'm going to do it in 3 years. I've interviewed people from my team that said they want to be the #1 real estate agent in New York in
nice to have
3
goals.
years. Like, that is ambitious. And you've done $4 million in real estate transactions so far? Sure. So if they're really humble, dealing with Banana Head is great. I'm happy to give them a leg up. I'm happy to make them look amazing. And that will make the whole transaction and everything easy, because ultimately in New York City, we all need each other. And that goes from doing this business and doing a deal, because doing a transaction in New York, whenever I explain a transaction in New York to anybody else outside of New York City, they're like, your numbers are amazing. I want to come do business there. I'm like, all right, well, this is how we do deals. They're like, I would never do that. So because just to close in a co-op or a condo even, it still takes 3 months from contract to close. There's a lot of massaging, there's a lot of egos in New York, and there's a lot of relationships that hang in a delicate balance.
And the co-op boards, et cetera.
Correct. And there's a lot of uncertainty. So you need everybody to look really good. Then it still is going to take you 1 to 3 months on a good transaction to get somebody into contract and get a good deal. So you need to really play politics and help out your colleagues in certain ways in order to help facilitate every aspect of this business. It's the same thing about living in New York. We all look out for each other in different ways. So
and respect
correct
each other, because in an industry like this, we really have to.
You have to.
Because it's good for our own peace of mind, but it's also good for. I always say also when I'm teaching, love your co-broker. Okay, there may be a banana head, they may be one of you three who are not, but you love your co-broker, because that's going to make the transaction that much better.
One thing I've done recently is I've actually pulled a few banana heads around or pulled them to the side and just asked them what's going on in life, because we're all going through something.
You go. Well, there you go.
And I want to be like, all right, I don't want to.
Well, there you go.
We're butting heads in this transaction, so it's either a me issue or it's a you issue, and I'm not going to rule myself out of it. It 100% could be a me issue. So in that, it's what's actually going on, and is there a way that we're going to be able to make this process smooth and easy, and let's set us up for success.
Yeah. What about those who thrive here in New York City but kind of struggle elsewhere? Is that a personal thing, or is it like, and again, we're talking about, if you can make it here and you can thrive here and you can be successful here, you can pretty much do it anywhere. But there are people who do struggle outside of their little cushion or their little, as I say when I'm teaching, that comfort zone. How does fear play into this? Because we can be super successful, we can be enormously successful, but we can still walk around with that fear that is in all of us that sometimes brings us in the wrong direction. So people thrive here, but they struggle maybe outside. What do you think about that?
That could speak to what we were talking about before about this actually being a bubble, this city. As difficult as it is to be here in some categories, as we touched on, it's very generous and very accepting in so many others. So I could totally see how someone could be thriving here and find it very difficult elsewhere, depending on their personal situation or their skill sets, where their network is, et cetera. I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Lisa, so what role does the city's culture and networking opportunities play in the success of us as real estate agents? You brilliantly stated before how we've really come from, a complete and total referral business to now you've got to be out there, you've got to be known, you've got to kind of brand yourself and put yourself, AI found you or just a Google search found you, #1 broker in New York City. But beyond that, though, how does the city's culture that we all know and love, and we're all part of that culture, how does that play into our ultimate success? And again, not only just real estate, but in any industry here in New York.
So I think that I want to try to tie together a little bit your question with what Daniel had said before about, different kinds of people. And people starting in this business saying they want to be #1 or this or that. I teach a lot of classes for new brokers and continuing ed. And, one of the questions people always say is like, how'd you get there, right? How do you get the $10 million listing? How do you sell the $30 million home? You need patience. To be good at this job, you have to have two things. You have to have grit and determination, but you also have to have patience. Nobody goes from 0 to 100 in 5 minutes, right? You have to build your business. You also have to build relationships with people. So I always tell this story that 27 years ago, I joined the Reebok gym, which is now in Equinox on 67th and Columbus. To me, to you too, it'll probably always be Reebok. I just had my second son, and I didn't want to have to go home to shower every day. I was starting new in real estate, and I wanted to have a place to leave my bag. So I made the decision that I was going to pay extra to be in the executive locker room so I could have my bag there. They would do my laundry. I'd have my shampoo. And it was all about convenience. I actually think I did it when I was pregnant with him because at the end of my pregnancy, I didn't want to carry a big bag. Anyway, I was in that locker room for several years as a new real estate broker because he was born in 97 and that's the year I started. And over the course of the next 10 to 12 years, I got significant business from that locker room. Now, why did that happen? I was there basically every day at the same time in the morning. You're with these people, you say hello, you get undressed, you take a shower, you talk about your morning, you talk about the weather, eventually you talk about your kid, you get a phone call from the pediatrician, they overhear you talking. Eventually, you get these relationships. They hear you on the phone, they ask you what you do, they ask your advice because they're selling their apartment, they can't sell their apartment, whatever it is. I never handed out my cards. I never said to people, you should use me. I never did that. I got significant business from that relationship that was part of my daily routine. I have exercised regularly since I was 22 years old because it keeps my sanity. And that's where I developed a whole bunch of relationships. And then I'm also involved in some different philanthropy. It often has something to do with Israel. I'm also on the board of a not-for-profit nursing home on 106th Street. I've been on that board for 9 years. I just got my first piece of business out of it. I didn't join the board to get business. It's a bunch of old white men on the East Side who I would never think I was going to talk to about real estate, but like they were on the board with me. And I never really discussed it because I was there for one thing and I do something else. Eventually, people get to know you. And if they trust you, eventually they may use you. But I guess my point is, be part of the city. Be in the city. Do the things in the city. Do you like to run in the park? Run in the park. Do you have a dog? Go to the dog run. You like art? Join the museum, whatever it is, music, whatever it is. Eventually, if you are a friendly person and you're engaged in whatever activities you're doing, you're going to meet people and people are going to be interested in you. And then they are going to want to work with you. But you can't go in there thinking, I'm a real estate broker and I'm going to hand out my cards. So people always say to me, why don't you do more networking events? Well, for years, my answer was I had 3 kids. I'm not going to go out every night. Am I going to lose some business that way? Yes. Did I gain some business because I was a mom at a school and eventually people knew me from there too? Yes, but I didn't. It's where you put yourself. Be present. Be present with your mind. Be open with your heart. Talk to people. Be nice to people. It works.
I used to actually go to a lot of networking events because that's what I thought you had to do. I moved here, I didn't know anybody. And you really had to get out there. But over the last 3 years, so I cut out alcohol 2.5 years ago because I wanted to be intentional about my life. I didn't want the immediacy of being able to go out, have a drink here, have dinner with clients, and then once you've already had 2 or 3 drinks, you're like, all right, I'll just go to the bar and I'll see some other friends.
Which becomes the focus, right?
Now that I've cut it out and become very intentional, I go deep with relationships and my clientele has changed. I work very much with business leaders now and we do more lunch meetings and it's more phone calls because they don't have time. They're not necessarily going to these networking events. So it's, how can you do what you really enjoy? Because then people love people that are interested and then just go deep in that, as Lisa said, because you can spray and pray. But really, when you figure out what you want to do and what you're interested in, you'll meet the right people.
It's putting yourself in the right place at the right time with hard work and perseverance. We've got to take one last break. We're coming back after this. Talking New York real estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place, the More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
Ryan, let me ask you, so, how does a struggling, we talked a little bit about this before the break. The New York City real estate market has not been at its top in a year or two, 2.5 years, for a whole bunch of reasons. But how does the struggling real estate market in New York City test the resilience of those successful agents in this town, or even people who want to come in and buy as investors, or just our regular clientele? The market was kind of sluggish for a whole bunch of reasons. So how does that test our ability to continue to stay focused and successful in our own right, and kind of, like the old expression, weather the storm?
Right. So I developed, as we've talked about in past sessions, I developed real estate for almost a decade with two business partners. And I made the decision to come to the sales side of the business in March of 2020. I had 11 days in an office, and then COVID hit.
Talk about timing.
So I essentially didn't do anything. 2020 showings were illegal. So this is really my 4th year in the business, and this is my team. Everything that's come from it was built out of one of the most challenging
Hollywood power broker nominee. Okay.
So it tests resilience, but I saw it as opportunity. There was a lot of people that were not paying attention to New York. There was a lot of people that were very down on New York. Do you remember the rhetoric in the press, New York is dead?
Oh, my God.
It was, for me, New York was opportunity at that point. I was able to work with the most investment-savvy, opportunistic buyers at that time, who also shared my belief that New York would recover, which, of course, that it did. So a challenge, like anything in life, is finding the way around it. How do you get over the wall?
And not complaining about it. I mean, I did 2 or 3 sales sight unseen, and I think 1 rental in that 3 or 4 month period.
Yeah.
Whereas you say we could not go out and show anything, but it's that confidence, it's that ability to show your expertise and your knowledge that people kind of say, hey, you are good, you are good, you are good. I'm going to trust. I mean, buying something literally for $1 million, $2 million sight unseen. I mean, that was amazing, shocking, actually. But it did happen. Economic turndowns, market instability. I mean, this is something that in the 22 or 23 years I'm in this business has gone up and down, up and down, up and down. How do you stay resilient in this? How do you stay focused? How do you stay successful? How do you stick to that mantra of, I've done well, I want to continue to do well, I get this town, and I want to just keep moving forward? How do you do it?
Well, I think that goes back to what I said is, I'm a positive person. I enjoy working. I really do enjoy working. And I don't enjoy working on the multiple $1 million properties more than I enjoy working on something small. I really enjoy working. And one of the things that I've thought about a lot in the last year or so, because I think when I was about 57, I kept thinking, well, I'll do this till I'm like 62 or 63. And then I'm going to slow down. And then I'm going to maybe retire. And so now I'm 60 and I'm thinking like, I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I don't know. But what I have decided is that I'm not going to take on business and work with people I don't like. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of what I decided this year. And I tried it out twice this year on people who weren't behaving correctly. I basically told them, like, this isn't going to work for me. You're going to have to find somebody else. And both of them sort of put their tail between their legs and apologized profusely. What I would say is I focus on the fact that I like doing this. So, I worked through 9/11, post 9/11, the financial crisis, and then COVID. So when COVID hit, I was kind of like, this ain't nothing, right? Like, this is happening in the whole world. This is not just a New York thing, right? Exactly. The other 2 things, one was terrorism in our city that freaked everybody out. And the other one was, basically the biggest money-making thing in our city looked like maybe it was going to be gone for a while. So when COVID hit, I was kind of like, okay, you know what? Like, when I saw early in COVID was people said this was the worst place to be. I saw it as the best place. It was the only place I saw in the whole world where everybody was wearing a mask when they were supposed to. And I thought, look at how we take care of each other. We know we're in close quarters, and we are following rules. So to me, I thought, I love New York more than ever. But what I'll say is it's grit. It goes back to grit. So my husband, my second husband, who I've been married to for 21 years, we were together. We got married after 9/11, but we were together during the financial crisis, and he works on Wall Street. And what did I do during that year or so where you couldn't sell anything? It didn't matter what it cost because, like, no one knew if they could get a mortgage. There wasn't that much cash like we have now. It was bad. and I still had 3 kids that I was putting in, through school. I did rentals. I hadn't done rentals in years, and I started doing rentals. So, and I still say to myself now, like every January, I'm going to tell you a quick story about Barbara Corcoran, who I worked for early in my career.
Love.
She always had, I think most companies, but like an annual meeting in January. First couple weeks in January, we'd go to a big auditorium and she would sit there and give you sort of a pep talk. And I'll never forget, maybe it was my 3rd year in the industry. She gets up there and she starts by saying, all of you people out there who are worried about whether you're going to make any money this year. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. She was like, you are going to be the successful ones because you need to worry in January. You should be worried. It's a new year. And I think that, you know what? I never spend money in January because it's my new year. It's coming up. I don't know what's going to happen.
I spend it all in December and then spend it in January.
But the point is you just have to keep working hard, and you have to like what you do.
Oh, my
and
God.
we've been talking about people being banana heads or not nice or this or that. The fact is that in general, the people who like what they do are usually good at what they do.
Yep.
My dad loved being a doctor, and he was a great doctor because he loved being a doctor. And we have a fun job. I mean, there's pitfalls, but it's fun. It's a people job.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving around. We're not sitting at a desk. We get to see the weather. We get to see the fresh air. We get to go to different parts of the city. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Like, we really see
Absolutely.
everything. Everybody's afraid of going to different neighborhoods and boroughs. Like, imagine the person that
right up
needed to
front
live
to
in the
all
West
of us.
Village.
Exactly.
They've never left it.
My girlfriends always ask me where I shop. I'm like, I shop wherever I have time between appointments. Different neighborhoods. I find stores every
Oh,
place.
exactly. No matter where you are, you decide you need something. It's like, okay, we'll do it right here.
I have 20 minutes till my next showing. Right?
And yeah, we talked a little bit about personal branding before when Lisa mentioned it, and when I'm teaching continuing ed social media class, to me it's all about branding. Okay, it's all about telling people who you are. Daniel, why is it important in the new world of real estate, right, to have people out there in social media see who you are, understand who you are, and if there is a real estate need, say, you know what, that guy who I keep seeing in my news feed, whatever, I'm going to go back to him for whatever. Does it only have to be real estate postings? Can it be personal posting, combination of both? What is it that really works from a social media and or branding perspective in your mind?
There's a lot of things that we need to do, and these are things that I'm very much working on, more because I'm so busy that this is an aspect of my business that has fallen through the cracks in a big way. But when you think about us as professionals being out, as Lisa said, we're out every single day. We see the city. We know more about this city than anybody else.
Exactly.
And I know this city, I've been here for 17 years, better than people that grew up here that have been here for 60. And it's because we are everywhere all the time.
And we pay attention.
And we pay attention. We're in different boroughs. We know what's changed. So when you think about the different platforms and branding, when I got into business, I created Daniel. I didn't know anything. I was afraid of my shadow, but I wore a suit every single day until it fell apart. So Banana Republic suit fell apart 6 months after wearing it every day. And then I upgraded because I had made some money, and you realize what you need. And then I shed Daniel when I didn't need it anymore. You look at Instagram. Instagram is our resume. Somebody can look on that. They can look you up really quick, and they'll just see, oh, do they live responsibly, or do they look like they went to Burning Man every single day and they're always out at nightclubs? And like, do your thing. I'm all for it. Go party. But if you look like you do it every single day,
there needs to be
that's
balance.
a challenge.
So there needs to be balance for sure.
There does, and I actually think that's the digital equivalent of the story Lisa was saying before about her experience at the gym. She wasn't going around passing her business card. People knew what she did because they heard her on the phone, but she was also talking about, her kids. So there was a balance of, this is what I do professionally, this is who I am as a human.
She's a real person.
Right. So my social media, I have a pretty good following on social media, which I built well before I was brokering. That was when I was developing. And I found that the most successful balance was including both, here's my professional achievements. Now here's me on a Saturday night having mozzarella sticks with my friends at 3 a.m. So like it's you become likable, you become respected because they see what you can do professionally. So you need both to be
likable is the operative word there because, and I've said this even before social media kind of blew up. what did we used to do when a buyer came and wanted to buy one of our units, right? Did we Google them to see who they were, where they come from, if they had any kind of background, whatever that we might not agree with, whatever. And I've said since then, you don't think that prior to you going to see a seller that hasn't worked with you before, that they're not sitting there Googling you and looking you up on social media to see who you are, just as Ryan said, for that maybe likability. Can I work with this person? Can I not? Are they kind of on a different sphere than me? It won't work, whatever. They all do that. Yeah. So, and, that's why I think the more we are present out there, the better we can be for future business. Yes, we're going to still get the referrals. Yes, I love the gym reference too. Yeah. I used to do the same thing at Equinox for years, and every time someone would have approached me with, hey, by the way, so I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do that. We can look for this or we can look for that. Not giving my card out, just being, who I am, whatever that means, or present to people when I am in a room. That likability factor, I think, is everything, because you can be successful, as we talked about banana heads before, and kind of like, well, who cares, right? So
I want to say something about this social media because, I'm at a different stage of life than you two, but I have children who are probably your age. How old are you?
35.
Okay, so my oldest is going to be 31. But,
No.
Yes.
Max?
Yes.
Whoa.
So the social media thing and the Instagram is super interesting, right? Because all of that has changed so much. Now you can look everybody up. Like you said, we used to not be able to Google people. And then I caught myself a few times during that stage where I should have been Googling people and I hadn't started. Like I remember I was in front of this person. I had no idea that he was the CEO of a major corporation. I was like, how did I not look him up before? So anyway, now we're at this other place. So my kids have criticized me for putting on my work Instagram comments about what has happened in Israel since October 7th, right? And before October 7th, I often made comments, Black Lives Matters, and I've always been somebody who supports LGBTQ issues, and I was always a lifelong Democrat. I was anti-Trump during his first administration. I'm still not a Trump fan. But I also think that, it's kind of interesting. Like, I feel like you have to be true to yourself. And so I feel like true to myself is being a humanitarian and being a good person. But it also means that I'm not going to hide how I feel about the things that are important to me. And I do think that one of the problems that real estate brokers have, young real estate brokers, I'm not pointing to you guys, I'm saying in general because we've talked about this, is that too many of them on their work Instagram want to show themselves sort of flying privately, going to this trip and on this trip and with their Hermes bags or buckles or whatever it else is. And they think somehow that's going to be appealing to potential clients. And I think that's garbage because I actually think that a hardworking person wants to see who you are and wants to see you as a hardworking person, not seeing all the stuff you're spending money on. So, I think it goes back to...
That's an excellent point, by the way.
Yeah. Being who you are.
Especially in our industry where we could make a lot of money.
And I've also posted things, politically or socially, social opinions on mine. And I know that I have certain clients who I'm friends with who follow me and I've seen what they post and I know that they don't agree with me, but that doesn't interrupt our business relationship.
Correct.
I think they just understand that these are my thoughts. I also know I'm a decent person and I probably thought critically about my opinion, but it's not, that's okay. I think I don't agree with your kids that you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Well, I feel like I'm not going to put anything offensive on my Instagram because guess what? I don't think offensive things. Right?
Exactly.
Like, I don't feel that way.
Yeah, and also, if you didn't post, I would actually be concerned because I know you and I know your values.
Right.
I know what you stand up for. So if you're not standing up for something, one way or the other, I'm actually going to be concerned and wonder, who are you and where are you?
But I think that's how you define success. When you stand up for who you are who you are, and you're not afraid to say, again, not in a defensive or offensive way, but you're just telling people, hey, I have a strong opinion about, because guess what? People looking at it have the same strong opinions or another strong opinion, right? That's what makes the world go round.
That's also one of those things that I think is really unique and special about New York City. Like I have a couple different group chats, and some are very political, and they're not like the guys group where everybody's just joking around. It's more about like politics and life and everything. And people disagree. And when you don't know enough about something, nobody's digging in their heels to say, this is my point of view. It is actually, they will say, I don't know enough about that. Let me go do some research, or do you have articles and facts that you can present to me, and I'll take a look at it. So people tend to be very open here, even though that they're going to have their values, they're going to have their points of view, but they're not going, and they'll agree to disagree versus ripping each other down.
Well, I think that in New York, I think one of the great things, since this is really about New York, right, this morning, is that this is a self-selected group of people who have chosen to live with people who are not all the same as us.
Yep.
We have chosen to do that. We have chosen to understand that our neighbors might not see the world exactly like we do, may not look like we do, and we like that. So that's unique. And that, to me, is what is so beautiful about this city.
It keeps us challenged. It keeps us wanting to know more, right? The greatest melting pot in the world. And it's not just about the color of someone's skin. It's about everything about all the different cultures that we've learned to enjoy as New Yorkers, love as New Yorkers. And if you're like me, and I know you are, you just want more. Because that's what helps us understand people more than just about anything else. And quite frankly, and not to put any other place in the world down, but if you live in a very bland environment or community anywhere else, you only know what you know. Everybody looks like you, sounds like you, comes from your same background. It's a cultural kind of inefficiency. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me.
Which is why also I've found that the people who I've met in New York City, even if I disagree with them, I agree with them more than the people I disagree with in other places. Yeah. They have a more well-rounded perspective. So even if I don't come to the same conclusion, I believe that they have substantiated their ultimate thought with more evidence than someone elsewhere. Because you just, a stone becomes round as it gets hit more and more by the ocean. So we're getting hit by so much ocean in the city, so many different perspectives and people, et cetera, that you get more well-rounded.
Which is why we're not tough.
Right.
Which is why tough's not the right word.
No,
because I actually think the wealthy people from cities that are not as interesting or dynamic are much tougher because they're used to getting their way and seeing things in their own way all the time and never having anything break that. In this city, you have to be malleable.
Yeah.
You have to be open-minded. Otherwise, you don't belong here.
Yeah. Big time. Like that even goes back 100%. To the legacy agents or the people that are like getting into this business where they come from everything. It's always a question of, is it tougher to be them or is it tougher to come from nothing and move here because they've had everything given to them. Now they need to learn that. What do I do when I hear no? When I can't get what I want? When now I have competition, when they've never had it before.
That's right.
That's a whole other challenge.
That's right.
And we see that all the time. So everybody has their things.
All right, we got to leave it there. We're coming right back after this quick break with my thoughts for the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my thoughts for this week. So, success requires a powerful combination of ambition, focus, and the courage to be different. Ambition fuels the drive to push beyond limits, take risks, and strive for excellence, while focus ensures that energy is directed toward meaningful goals without distraction. However, in a competitive world, especially in high-stakes industries like New York or entertainment, standing out is just as important as working hard. Those who dare to be different think creatively and challenge the norm often crave out unique opportunities for themselves. Whether through innovation, personal branding, or a fresh perspective, success comes to those who do not only work relentlessly, but also bring something distinctive to the table. Ambition sets the fire, focus keeps it burning, and being different turns it into something unforgettable, or as I like to say, memorable. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Confucius says, choose a job you like and you will never have to work a day in your life, and the only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network to all of you all around the globe, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am so grateful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.